Welcome to the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast, where we bring product and UX managers, designers, business executives, and strategists together to unlock the power of strategic alignment. I'm Tamara Stoltz, and I am on a mission to empower you to drive meaningful, measurable, and impactful outcomes by aligning business and product strategies. In each episode, I sit down with industry experts who share their experiences, failures, and wins, giving you the insights and tools you need to ensure your alignment drives real business results. It's time to own your expertise, step into your power, and become unstoppable. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Unstoppable Product Pioneer Podcast. Today is a really exciting episode. I know I feel like I say that every time, but it's really true because I am so honored to have such incredible guests on this show. It's really unbelievable. So today I want to welcome Randy Silver to our show. Welcome, Randy. Thank you so much for being
Tamar.
here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
It's so awesome. Randy is bringing tremendous experience in the product and leadership space. He is a coach, consultant. He's a community builder and has so many valuable insights to share with us today. Without further ado, I'm going to give the stage to Randy and let him tell us a little bit about who he is, a little bit about his background, and the awesome work he's up to.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much again for having me. It's great to be here. So, as you said, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm a community builder. I enjoy working with people and with organizations to create environments where product can succeed. And by product managers, designers, developers, executives, it's a good approach to working. And I really don't care who's in charge, just so long as we make it work. So, yeah, that's it. We can get into lots of stuff and I'm looking forward to the chat.
Awesome. Amazing. Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how you found this space, how you got into it?
Sure. Like everyone else, I'm sure, completely by accident. My first career out of school, I was actually a music journalist. I did underground hip hop, I did underground dance music, I did underground country music all at the same time and had a great time. I was Amazon's first editor for hip hop and children's music back when we sold CDs. So that was a very long time ago. And at a certain point, I looked around and realized that there wasn't anyone in the field who was older than me that kind of had the life that I wanted. And I was trying to figure out what it is I should do next. And it turned out having a job where I could actually afford to buy music was better than having a job where people just sent me music for free and I didn't get paid very much. It also turned out that working with writers and editors and designers and developers and helping to create something that's greater than the sum of the parts, it's targeted at delighting our customers and exists to provide value to the company, turns out that it's a very transferable skill set. And it's something I ended up doing. Went into interactive producing, which is the same thing as product management, except with no discipline around it whatsoever. And then one day I moved to London and someone offered me a job as a product manager. And I said, "What's that?" And they told me about Lean and they told me about Scrum and Agile. And all of a sudden, for the first time, I was surrounded by people who had best practices and unified ways of doing things. And that was about 15 years ago, and I just never looked back. And for the last 6 years, I've been consulting and coaching people and working with different organizations to create environments where the product teams could succeed and be better.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really great. Yeah, it's funny you say you found it by mistake because I feel like it's true. There's just no traditional way of finding yourself a product person. Each person has their own unique story.
Yeah, there's people coming out of school now. Obviously, when I was growing up, when I first came out of school, I didn't even know the profession existed. There's people coming out of school now trying to get directly into it. And there are some great associate product manager programs, and I've talked to people about those. And you can do it, but it feels like the generation I'm in, everyone did something else first. And I think it's really important for people, at least at some point in their career, to do at least a rotation in another role and really understand different perspectives, how companies work, how other people think, because the way product is perceived by others is not always the way that we think. And when I say product, I don't mean just product managers, product designers, product developers, and anyone who works in a product development process, period.
Mm-hmm. So why don't you share with us, like, from an insider's perspective, how you would explain the role of a product team within an organization?
Ooh. So
That's a
the way I
broad.
Yeah, product team is an interesting one. My friend Monica Turska has this wonderful thing. My wife used to describe my role as Randy goes to work and talks to people all day long. And then I would tell her, no, I go to meetings so that other people can get work done, which was true, but it was also very facetious. And it wasn't very honest about why I did the job. And it wasn't the best possible way of doing the work because most people I know, their calendars get very full up and they're desperate for time to think and plan and do the deep work. So I don't think I was being as effective as I could have. Monica has this wonderful description of the role of product people is to help people make better decisions faster. And that is far and away my favorite way of doing it. It means sometimes you are assimilating data and planning, sometimes you are analyzing, sometimes you are facilitating discussions with other people. It fundamentally doesn't matter. The role of product teams is to help organizations as a whole make better decisions faster, achieve value at a better pace, and understand why they're doing it and to work together. And that fundamentally means that, I have a definition of a product team, which is a little bit different than most people's. Most people would say, it's a product manager, designer, tech lead, any number of devs, and then you get QA and content and this and that and 14 other roles potentially a part of it. I think that's a group of people that are going to get together and get code into production and hopefully make it look pretty. And
Mhm.
that's not creating value at pace. That is just shipping something. And shipping something is important. It is part of what we're doing. But my definition of a product team is a group of people that can ask a question, get an answer, understand the answer, and make decisions and take action based on that. And that implies a whole bunch of other things. To do that, you have to know what the strategy is. You have to know the context. You have to know what the right question is. Getting that understanding and having the permission and the capabilities to take the right actions. There's a lot of things in there. So it doesn't matter who is on the team if you can't answer those questions affirmatively. So I don't care about line management. I don't care about daily stand-ups and who's taking Jira tickets. It's every once in a while, your product team is the group of people that will help you satisfy those conditions. And so that's a long way around to answer your question, I think.
Yeah, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious to hear, with all the work that you've done, I feel like the description that you gave, at least for me, sounds like an awesome team to join, right? There's a product team like this that exists. I'd love to join that team. That's like ideal. That's great. But I'm sure that there are people listening and watching and thinking, very nice for you, but that's not what's going on by me. And there's a lot there to unpack. Given that we've got a short amount of time, that I want to focus on something that can be valuable for our listeners and watchers, and something that each person can really take something away and implement it, no matter what team they're on, no matter what the team dynamics are, no matter how big or small your company is. I really do believe that each person is a valuable contributor to the team that they're on, and that there's one thing that they can do to provide value and maybe a little bit encourage change. So maybe could we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you've seen with product teams who don't maybe fit that ideal setup?
Sure. So most of the teams that I work with, in fact, just about all the teams I work with, have some variety of the same problem. And it's usually really comes down to perspective or perception. We get, and actually, let's take a step back. I hate the cult of product. Even though I've worked in this for a long time, we talk about product led organizations and things like that. And it implies that somebody with a product title is in charge. And that is almost never the case. Product managers are, in most organizations, middle managers, and we need to face the facts of that. It is okay. It is not a problem. Our job is to help facilitate this decision making and moving at better pace. And leaning into our skills to do that is what's really important. What we're trying to do is build bridges across the organization to do it. And when I listen to people describe their problems to me, I've got a mental model. I've turned it into a canvas, but the model is, are people working on the right thing? Do they have the right priorities? Which means, is there a strategy in the organization that they can use, a useful strategy, a story that they can use to help make better decisions? Then I look at the people in the organization. Do we have enough of them with the right capabilities and the right culture? Are they organized in a useful way? And then I look at the processes. So if we know what to work on and we have the right people to work on it, do we have processes that allow us to add value, or are they just creating more bureaucracy? And for the longest time, I thought it was those three things. And if I did those right from the product perspective, everything would be hunky dory and just work. And the reality is, doing it right by the product management book is useless. If it's useless if sales, if marketing, if your CTO, if your CEO, if any of your business partners or sponsors do not agree that you're working on the right things, or that you have the right people, or that the processes are working for them. So the thing that underlies this all is perception, and getting that agreement across the organization so that everyone agrees we're working on the right stuff with the right people in a way that helps us is incredibly important. It's also incredibly hard. But taking the step back, the thing that I advocate for almost everyone is take that step back, try and look at this, try and build those bridges, and try and build trust. It's not about doing the right thing for customers based on your discovery if other people don't agree on that, on whether that's important or not right now. Build that understanding, work together to build that. And I say that it's easy. It is not easy. It often takes years, a year or two, to build trust with people and to build an environment to do it. And it's not something you can always do by yourself. Sometimes you need to engage your own boss and other senior stakeholders in it. Sometimes the organization just isn't ready for it. So you take the wins where you can. But this is the thing that I really try and push with people. And this is the job that I try and do with the organizations, is create an environment where everyone else has a chance to do that by fixing some of the things at the top. And I'm lucky to be able to do that because I come in as a consultant. And sometimes you have the power to do that in an organization, and sometimes it's really hard and you just can't do it. You can't fix the whole thing. So fix what you can and build on that. Build the trust and just keep nipping away, chipping away at it, and get there as you can.
Wow. It's huge, because I'm as I'm like thinking, like building this analogy of building the bridges. Like I really I'm a very visual person. So I'm visualizing like this product team, and they're working to build these bridges. So I guess in practicality, what are some ways that we can practically start to build a bridge? Is it reaching out for a meeting? Is it conducting a collaborative workshop? Is it like, what are some ways that you've found to be successful ways to start this process of building and bridging that divide or that gap?
First thing is recognizing the conditions that you're in, the state that you're in. So people who are listening to this or watching us do this, we are people, we are in our own little state of the world. We believe that this is the right way of working. And not everyone agrees with us, or more often they agree that it's the right way of working, but they have their own language and terminology for it. We say that product as a whole is the intersection of tech, business, and strategy. And the reality is, so does marketing, so does sales, so do other people. So just recognize that we all think we're in the center of that. Also recognize that not every company wants to work the same way. And we read a lot of things, and the best books and everything describe processes at these incredible product companies. Most people I know and most companies I work with don't want to work that way. And just recognize that. Making them a little bit better every day, every week, every quarter, is what they need. They want to solve the problem that they perceive, and you can only solve the problem that the company perceives. The biggest people in our field, when they go into companies, if the CEO doesn't sign up to work the way that they say, they don't work with them. So most of us are not in the scenario where we can just walk away and do that. We're working with the companies that we're in. So that said, what can you do on a day-to-day basis? If you're in one of these top companies, there are plenty of things that you can do, and you probably have a pretty good idea. If you're in every other type of company, it's exactly as you said. Use the skills that you have around discovery around the company that you have. Find out what other people's goals are. What are their bonusable measures? What it's on their scorecards? What is it that they perceive as their immediate needs? Talk to them and do some motivation mapping, do some goal mapping, and see what you can do and how you can help them with that. Also recognize that it is incredibly difficult to both participate in a workshop and facilitate it at the same time. And if you have a stakeholder or a partner that you're having trouble with and you want to change the way you work with them, bring in someone else to help to facilitate a workshop and run it for you. Now the two of you are working together on something and you're not trying to get them to do it for you. And this is one of the things I really love to do with people is if they are having a bad relationship, if they can't get something across, then let me come in and help run something on their behalf where they're working together for a change. And the last one is stop using the frameworks and techniques that we talk about in product all the time and ask other people what they use. Because everything that we're doing is a means to an end. Everything we use is a way to have a better conversation so that we can create alignment and make decisions. And if someone has an alternate approach to it that helps get you to the same place, I don't care if you use an opportunity solutions tree. I don't care if you use a good roadmap or a Gantt chart, so long, or any of these other things, so long as it helps you to have a conversation. That's the most important thing.
Right. I think there's so much there, but I
Sorry.
think no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. There's so much there that I'm just like, yes, yeah. But there's a few things that I want to,
Please.
if I could unpack everything, but we'd just be here for days and days. But one of the things that I feel like I've identified as maybe a pattern, some of the strong points here that you're making is that when it comes to this idea of thinking about the other person, about taking yourself out of it and taking out all the practices and all the coursework that you've done and all the notes that you've taken as this is the only way to do it or this is the right way to do it, being able to pull yourself out of that and actually use the tools that you have as a designer or as a UX designer, product designer, and all your discovery, like that tool set that you do, but with clients, to do it internally, like UX your team, UX your department, discover what it is that they're dealing with. What are their challenges? What are their pain points and frustrations? It's the same thing, right? The same process. Like that point is so powerful because I know for myself, right? Like my background's in UX design, and I don't think I ever thought of it in that way. I think I was so much more caught up. Like that resonates with me a lot. Just thinking back 5-6 years, I'm immersed in this team, right? And all I'm doing is thinking about how I can scream as loud as I can to support my clients and their frustrations and their pain points. And it's very much about me representing my client, me representing myself and my work, and totally missing the boat on everything you're saying, which is, I feel like, I don't know, maybe that was just me, but I feel like there's a certain,
Not just you.
there's a certain like human, I don't know if it's like a little bit of like the opposite way of thinking, but it's coming to, I feel like the way that we're taught, we're given all these frameworks. Here are guides. Now take them and run with them. It's like closing out all of those things that we were taught and simply sitting down with the person to understand, look, we both want to drive success for the company. We both know what the business objective goals here are for the coming quarter, and we both are trying to head to the same place. So what do you think is the best way to get there? And just like being open to and being receptive to what your teammates have to say or what your managers have to say, I feel is not something that either we're taught or that comes easy.
And there was an assumption in what you just said that we both know what the objectives are for the quarter. And sometimes that's not clear, or you have different objectives based on which teams you're on. They've been communicated and interpreted differently. So you can't even assume that much. What I really love, and designer skills are some of my favorites in this, journey mapping, service design, just drawing a basic flow diagram of here's where we want to be, and here are some of the assumptions that we have along the way or the plan to get there, or here's how this works now, or here's how I think this works now, and here's where the problems are and we need to change. It makes a big difference because you go from talking to each other, against each other face to face and saying, I think, versus now we're both looking together at a diagram together. We're facing the page and we're arguing with the diagram. So it's much less personal, and we talk past each other all the time when we use words. Pictures make it a lot easier. The other thing I really like is Matt LeMay has this wonderful thing of 1 page, 1 hour. Never spend more than an hour or write more than a page without showing it to someone else. Same thing with
Mhm.
these diagrams. They don't need to be perfect. You've got an idea in your head, run the messy idea by somebody you trust and say, "Hey, am I going in the right direction with this? Is this what you some a problem you see as well, or is this the do you agree that this is how the current state of the world that we're working in?" It All of a sudden you're doing this stuff together, you're engaging them in something that they're interested in, and you're making them a collaborator on the solution rather than a client of what you're doing. So you don't need to be the hero in this. Our job is to be more the Obi-Wan than the Luke. There's tons of other things, or the Mary Poppins, or whichever the Mr. Miyagi, whichever one thing we want to. I'm dating myself with some of these references, I know, but we are the facilitator rather than anything else. The hero of everything is our users, our clients, our sponsors, and we need to treat them that way, make them feel that way. Then they'll be much more likely to be engaged.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a workshop facilitator, like I have a post-it note that says, be the guide, not the hero. And I
Yep.
feel like that's because it is. And sometimes it's hard. I come into a situation to be a workshop facilitator and to completely have to remove myself, usually about a topic I'm super passionate about. But yeah,
I have a
no,
whole
that's a
talk on
huge.
this topic, which is it's very silly. It's called God, Superheroes, and Product Managers. It includes a whole rant about Big Trouble in Little China, and yet somehow it still makes sense. But
It's awesome. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm curious to hear, like, when it comes to a lot of the things that we're discussing now are soft skills. I feel like a lot of these things are understanding how people work, understanding communication, understanding collaboration, understanding how to be thoughtful and empathize. And a lot of these are skills that, when it comes to people and dynamics, it's complex. And I feel like there's a lot of, maybe, I don't know if the word's like personal growth, but I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for really tapping into soft skills like communication and patience and collaboration. These things, they're concepts I feel like that are maybe easier to talk about, but in practice they require a lot of practice.
they do. Jana Basto did a really great talk at Mind the Product a few years ago where she started off saying, people are hard and much harder. The soft skills are much harder than the hard skills from that perspective. It takes much longer to grow into them. And because there is no objective right or wrong, there's just getting better at it. I like to build on Jana's thing and say, yeah, people are hard. And the only thing harder than people are lots of people and trying to do it at scale. It is There are some people who have a natural knack for this, but for most of us, I was a reasonably good student. I can acquire hard skills with some grit and some determination and by myself. The soft skills take much, much longer. They take a lot more practice. And there is no definitive objective right. There's always adaptation. It's the most agile thing of how do you adapt in any situation to try and get better at it. And there are times when I have absolutely failed. There are people who see the world differently than me or have different prejudices or just don't like me for whatever reason. And there's only so much I can do with them. And I have absolutely failed in some circumstances with this, but I've gotten a lot better and I succeed a lot more than I used to. And it's just something that it takes time and practice and care and attention to do it.
Right. You mentioned Mind the Product. For those who are listening and don't know what Mind the Product is, you want to give us a quick
Sure.
explanation, crash course?
Yeah, sorry. So Mind the Product, it's an organization. It started off with product tanks, which are meetups all over the world. I think there's about 200 of them. They're free. They're wonderful. It's probably one in a city near you. And if you're interested in product or product design, I would encourage you to check those out. Mind the Product itself, I do a podcast with them. I used to be a trainer with them. They host a big conference every year in London. And oh God, they are acquired by Pendo a couple of years ago. And so now they've got ones in a couple that are going to be in the States as well next year. And there's a whole bunch of other things that they're doing. And to be honest, I do the podcast. I don't know every single thing that we're doing all the time. And our podcast comes out every week. And much like this one, we talk to great people and learn things all the time. But
Yeah.
it's just and if anyone out there is listening and it wants to get involved, if you want to write for Mind the Product, they're always looking for authors. So just drop them a line. And one of my favorite talks or article types that people do is what I wish I had known when I took this job or a year ago or 5 years ago, things like that. You can take that topic and always make it your own, and it's always valuable. Please go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so, there's so much value here. There's so much to think about. And I'm definitely like, my brain is moving at a fast pace. There's a lot of really awesome, good stuff. I would love to hear, just looking at the new year, right? And there's lots of exciting things happening with technology and different advancements, maybe with this AI thing, right? I don't know if you want to talk about AI, if you don't want to talk about AI, but I would love to hear your thoughts. For me personally, I'll just put it out there for those of you who are listening and haven't heard my opinion on AI. It's pretty simple. I'm excited by AI because I think that anything else, it's a tool that will enhance the work that I'm doing, help me to do the work that I'm doing more efficiently. So maximize on the things that I don't have to be busy with if it can like help improve the quality of my work, but I don't see it as a threat. I think that I am who I am and AI is not going to replace my voice. And I approach it with curiosity and just as an opportunity. And when it aligns with my values and I can use the tool properly, it's great. And when I feel like it's a replacement or taking over my voice, whether it's in writing or video, whatever, then it doesn't align and then I don't have to use it. That's my take on AI. But it's definitely a question I hear a lot. So as a product person, what are your thoughts on AI?
So a few years ago when COVID first hit, I had a bunch of friends calling me saying, "Holy crap, what do I do now? My roadmap has gone to hell and I don't know what to do." And I had the same conversation with them over and over again. So I started writing a blog post and that turned into 10 bullet points, each which turned into their own blog post. And Jeff Gotthelf and Josh Seiden were kind enough to respond to me very quickly. And we put out a book called What Do I Do Now? Which was based on when everything changes on you, how do you react to it? And I realized that it wasn't just relevant for COVID, it's relevant for any disruption. And basically, what I'm telling product people is you are the best equipped person in your organization to deal with this. Because going back to basics around discovery and strategy are the keys to how you deal with AI. And the question is, why would you use it? What is it good for? What has changed about your customers and their circumstance? What has changed about your company and the marketplace, the competition space that you're in? And looking at that to create a good story and a good strategy that will help everyone to make proper decisions about when and where and why to use it is the most critical thing. When we talk about AI as product managers, there's really two different stories that we're working on. There's one is how do I use AI? And then there's how do I develop AI? And they're very different things. And keeping in mind, there are many cases where you can use it. It is an accelerant in many cases. We can argue about the Clayton Christensen definition of accelerant versus disruption. And honestly, I will gladly have that argument with you over a drink. I don't care about the difference. If it's something that changes the way that causes my boss to walk in and say, drop everything, we need to change what we're doing, or the market suddenly changes and sales is in a tizzy, that's whether an accelerant or a disruption. Yeah, it's something we need to respond to. Working on developing AI as a product person is a totally separate thing. Is there are all kinds of things about that, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in that. I haven't worked in that space. But in terms of adopting it, one of my favorites was a CPO that I talked to. Their CEO gave him and the CTO a challenge. How can we save 10,000 person hours a month by use of AI in the organization? And it was fantastic because it told a specific story. How do we get better? How do we get more efficient? And the 10,000 hours it was just a number that came out thin air. It didn't really matter. It was, let's set an arbitrary objective and see how we do. So it was more of an OKR, but no one cared how audacious it was. It was, here's a target, let's see what we can do. And I think in the first month or so, they got 3,000 hours, which was
Wow.
fantastic. And
Yep.
he told me all the tools that this was over a year ago. He told me all the tools. I'm sure they're all out of date now, but it was a fantastic thing. But that was a good story that they cohered around, and they knew how to move forward with it. And that was the really important thing.
That's awesome. That's great. That's so great. Wow. Okay. We've discussed so many amazing things. And Randy, again, I want to thank you so much for your time. If there's one message that you wanted to wrap up with, we could take so much from this episode, practically walking away with one actionable next step. Is there something that comes to mind as an easy, quick, small thing for someone to just jot down and try to
Yeah,
implement?
my favorite thing, and you can take I've got I've lost the word now, a template for this on Canvas. That's the word I'm looking for on my site. It's .com. And it's around, as I said earlier, around priorities, people, processes, and perception. And spend 10 minutes just answering this. It's got a bunch of prompt questions on it. Spend 10 minutes answering those. And if that will, and then take a step back and think about, how do other people perceive this? And 99% of the time, in my experience, you will figure out what are the things that are actually holding you back. And that's what you need to concentrate on and prioritize for yourself and your team. And I like doing it by myself. I like doing it in retros, and I like doing it with stakeholders as well, because you will get different answers from people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited to go check it out. We're going to put the link in the description. Randy, for people who want to reach out to you, say thank you for this great episode, where is the best place besides for the website for them to reach out?
Sure. So website outofowls.com. LinkedIn is great. And I also run a community for product people called Product in the Ether. You can get to it from my site. It's a free thing that people just come in for a monthly lean coffee, and we have great chats. I do another one for CPOs that's separate, but I'd love to continue the conversation with anyone. And thank you again for inviting me on. This was great.
Amazing. This was so great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your super busy schedule to be with us. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for watching. And I know that you gained a tremendous amount from this. Remember, just write even one thing down. There's so much here to take, but write one thing, one actionable next step that you can walk away with, and make sure to let us know in the comments below what worked, where are the successes, what are the challenges, and because those are also equally as important. And I'm excited to hear. Randy, thank you so much again. And we'll be in touch soon. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope today's episode gave you a fresh perspective and some actionable steps towards aligning your product strategy with your business goals. Remember, you have the power to drive real change in your team and organization. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show and supports us in bringing you valuable content. And don't forget, alignment isn't just a buzzword, it's a journey that we're all on together. So until next time, keep pushing for impact and making a difference.